We often feel that someone is wrong in a discussion, but we sometimes have a hard time articulating why. Socrates had a similar problem in ancient Greece. People had strong opinions and beliefs without being able to justify them. So then Socrates developed a method to help people reveal contradictions, clarify assumptions, and strengthen reasoning. In this video, we're going to look at key elements of Socratic reasoning that will help us in day-to-day discussions and debate. My name is Bogdan Popescu, and I'm an assistant professor in political science at Cabot University, Rome. And in this video, we're going to look at 3 important elements to make debate and discussion more productive. We're also going to apply the key insights to a Jubilee video that will reveal the interesting key aspects of Socratic reasoning that one interlocutor utilizes. So let's dive right in. The first key aspect of Socratic reasoning is start by clarifying definitions. Before initiating any debate or argument, it's important to make sure that both interlocutors speak about the same thing. For example, one interlocutor may say the United States is no longer a democracy, whereas the other would say that no, it continues to be a democracy. This discussion will not lead to a very fruitful or effective conclusion without ensuring that the 2 interlocutors are speaking about the same problem or the same concept. The first person would imagine democracy as equality, or would imagine the definition of democracy as a system with limited corporate influence, whereas the second person would refer to democracy as free and fair elections and constitutional protection. Without ensuring that the 2 people are speaking about the same problem, it's going to be very difficult to have a productive, meaningful conversation. The 2 interlocutors will likely speak about different processes that will no longer lead to a successful dialogue. The second important aspect of Socratic reasoning is asking for clarifications and not confrontation. So this is in a way related to the first point. So here, a competent Socratic method would be, I'm not sure I understand what you mean by this. Can you explain further? This accomplishes 3 things. It allows the interlocutor to clarify their position. It forces them to articulate their view more effectively and more precisely. It also slows down the argument, so it allows the other speaker to process the information. And finally, it allows contradictions to emerge naturally. So the interlocutor who's asking, can you explain this position more clearly, would naturally unravel any potential contradictions that might emerge from the previous speaker. So the effectiveness of asking for clarification is that contradictions will reveal themselves naturally. So the interlocutor will likely change their own position on their own without necessarily having the need for a hostile interaction. Socrates used this method quite frequently, not to humiliate, but to help people examine their own beliefs more carefully. A third pillar of Socratic reasoning is examine logical consequences. A belief must be tested not only for what it claims, but also for what it entails. So at this stage, we would be asking questions like, if this were true, what else would follow? If the consequences are absurd or illogical, then these consequences, this means of testing, will reveal the problems with an argument. So this is the heart of many philosophical arguments that from Socrates to Plato, it forces the interlocutor to examine the extent to which their own belief would survive when extended to its logical implications. So let us now move to a practical application of these principles. Let's examine how an interlocutor applies these 3 pillars of Socratic debating to a discussion about women's happiness in modern times. So let us watch this and briefly pause and examine what the questions are.
Hello, I'm Zena.
Zena,
Very much like your name.
thank you so much. Nice to meet you.
Can we start with the beginning? Do you identify as a female?
I identify as a woman.
Okay. There
Right.
we go.
So I do want to get back to your premise. You're saying that women have been devalued, right, by the sexual revolution. This kind of presumes 2 things. One, that there has been a loss of worth, right? for women. So you're saying that women have, as human beings, lost worth. Women who, prior to their sexual revolution, were worth more than women today.
So notice how effective Zena is utilizing Socratic reasoning by asking Candace exactly what the implications of her statement are. The claim is the sexual revolution has devalued women and made them infinitely less happy. So notice how Zena is moving to identifying what the consequence of this are, or even trying to define what she means by value. So value equals worth. So let's see what Candace responds.
I would say that, yes, women have devalued themselves by becoming overtly
According to-
sexual. That's my claim. So, I mean, also according to and let's not remove this from the other part of the claim, which that it has made women infinitely less happy.
Right. So are you saying, but you're saying that according to you, women have been devalued?
Not according to me. According to the time in which people are getting married, how difficult it is for people to find a partner that's willing to commit to them. And I think that's in large part due to the fact that women are offering sex for free, because it was a major component of the sexual revolution was this idea.
So a woman's worth is tied to her sexuality.
It's not tied to, well, absolutely.
So notice how, again, Zena is asking for clarification questions or try to think about the logical implications of the claim. So women's worth is tied to their sexuality. And notice how uncomfortable Candace becomes. First of all, she says, no, I'm not saying that. But then, oh, yes, absolutely. That's exactly what I mean. Notice how effective this form of questioning is without necessarily saying, oh, this is wrong, you're completely wrong, and just simply asking. So this means that women's worth are tied to their sexuality. And notice how uncomfortable Candace becomes. But let us see how she responds further.
Absolutely. If you're going to be having multiple partners, you are going to be devaluing yourself.
You're worth less as a human being.
Not as a human being, just, in terms of trying to have a partnership and a productive relationship. Certainly men are not going to be clamoring to have a relationship with somebody when there's the market.
Okay,
So notice once again, Candace continues with her discomfort. She's trying to clarify, it's not about discomfort. It's really about how men will stop chasing women who have had multiple partners. But notice once again how effective that line of questioning was and how uncomfortable that made Candace.
Growing them.
A man's response to your actions is what defines your worth, right?
Yeah, well, I would
even more uncomfortable. That's exactly sort of logical questioning. So what you're saying is that women's worth, remember that the original claim was that sexual revolution has devalued women. Notice how you have this transition from devaluing worth by men. And then look how uncomfortable Candace becomes by this line of questioning.
say that I would argue that what makes women actually happy is family. So if you're interrupting, so just to connect the dots for you,
Connect the dots for you. Clearly, Candace is trying to connect the dots for herself because she's aware that she's making a logical connection that probably isn't there. So let us hear what she's got to say.
and women are having sex with multiple partners, it devalues them for men, right?
For men. So,
yes. So
men define a woman's worth.
well, I would say both of them kind of define one another's worth, because I think the ultimate goal for people to be happy is actually family.
Candace knows that she fell into her own trap, right? So what she says, it's exactly compatible with Zena's question, which is not really a question, it's more like a statement illustrating exactly the effectiveness of Socratic reasoning.
Okay, so you're saying
That works.
in all cases, a woman is going to be more fulfilled in regards to family. Like this,
Well, that's interesting because now Zena is moving to a different line of questioning. So she's trying to attack, quote unquote, Candace by saying, so in all situations, a woman will feel this way. So now she's posing a question, but she's kind of attacking Candace from another direction. So are you saying that this is always going to happen?
Exactly what I'm saying.
and this is going to work in all cases. You're saying there's no individual case in which a woman can feel, fulfilled without being tied to other people. In the case of family.
I think there could be an exceptional case for everything. I think there are
Right.
exceptional cases, but I think that if we all start trying to be the exception as opposed to recognizing the rule, which is that people in life are more fulfilled when they achieve a family unit and when they have children, women in particular, especially aspiring to children, then you are going to end up with a bunch of people who are unhappy because your job cannot replace the feeling of having a family.
So that's interesting. Once again, Candace feels slightly uncomfortable here because she knows there will always be some exceptions and she cannot talk on behalf of all women, but she's trying to address this point, not necessarily very persuasively, but articulating like, I'm not talking about exception here. I'm talking that on average, women will feel this way. So I'm talking about the average woman.
What you're saying is we need to look at every individual case and see what is going to fulfill you or what is going to, I guess, essentially predict your happiness more. Because if we look at, for example, the Nordic countries, right? These are countries, I'm talking about like Sweden, Denmark, right? These countries tend to be like, I think in the past 14 years, they've been ranked as the highest in happiness and marital satisfaction from women, right? And we said they also have been the most open in regards to like, sexual norms and sexual roles, right? So, and we also see that there's less rates of like STDs reported. And we see more, and that's also due to comprehensive sex education that's pushed in those countries. So we see that and that's like a direct result of the sexual revolution, right? So when we're seeing that direct reports of happiness, right, we don't have these same rates in America. In these countries that are more sexually open, why would we see like those rates in those sectors?
So now it's no longer Socratic reasoning per se. What Zena is doing now, she's utilizing evidence. So the sexual revolution in Nordic countries has produced non-traditional romantic arrangements, but also has led to more happiness, a more reported happiness. So let's see what Candace responds.
I think you might be referring to this sort of mass-produced study that was a part of like a behavioral science study, which said that women were the happiest women in the world were women that were actually unmarried and had careers. No, okay, well, there was
reported happiness.
Okay, sure. I'm talking about the same thing. It was reported happiness, but it could be there's tons of studies. The point being is that in 2023, there was this massive scandal where they recognized that a lot of these studies that were being produced, behavioral science, was proven to be a complete fraud. And they were unable to reproduce these studies. And they also found that the data had been faked. The data that we can look at that I think shows, and you can let me know if you agree with this, if women, and under the imagination of the feminist umbrella, were really unhappy when they were in the home, and then entering the workforce has made women happier and infinitely feeling more secure about themselves, we could, I think, reasonably expect that there would have been a decrease in suicide rates amongst women.
You would have to go ahead and show how that correlation, right, is going to be a direct cause of women going into the workforce.
Okay, well, how can we measure? Then you have to give me a way that we can measure happiness.
Once again, this is no longer Socratic reasoning. What Zena is doing, she's implying that seeing these relationships like lower suicide rate and the sexual revolution, this doesn't necessarily mean that they're causally related to one another. There could be a variety of factors behind what caused higher suicide rates or and feeling depressed. This is a different line of argumentation. So Zena now is pushing for causality and trying to get Candace to provide causal evidence for this relationship. Candace is saying like, well, we have to think about definitions of what happiness is, but clearly that's irrelevant for the question that Zena is asking. Defining happiness or defining the outcome has nothing to do with showing causality, right? Even if you have a better definition of happiness, that doesn't fix the problem that you have to show the causal relationship between the sexual revolution and happiness.
Right. I would say suicide rates would be a good thing to look at. Drug, alcohol consumption would be
of course, right? But we can say, I can say at this point in society, I don't think everyone's happy. I think there's a lot of things that we need to reconcile in society.
That's what I'm getting.
Right? But we have to look at the cause. Right? Why are these things predicted, right? And for example, if we talk about men, there are a lot of things we can look at, right? That tend to predetermine suicide, right? But we can't say, oh, these two things are happening at the same time. This caused this other thing.
Yes, that's right. But I do think that we can objectively say that women who are committing suicide rates more than they were in the 1950s, like it has actually increased marginally. That's not a sign that us entering the workforce suddenly made us.
How is it a cause of the workforce?
We're also binge drinking at a higher rate.
How's this cause of
opioids at a higher rate?
So once again, Candace continues to describe a variety of things that happen with the sexual revolution. So Zena is right to push her back. Like I was asking about the causal question. I was asking about the causal relationship between the sexual revolution and happiness or unhappiness.
This is a cause
because I think women are being put on a pathway aspirationally.
But you're gonna have to. You're saying you think this, right? But where's the cause? Like you're not substantiating claim. You're saying this is what I think. I'm seeing two.
Okay, pause. You've been voted up.
So fantastic way to push back. Well, you're saying you think, like, really, do you see what you're saying? So she's literally quoting Candace to explain that there's a problem here.
By the majority, please return to your seat.
Thank you so much.
Great job. Great job.
So notice Candace has been really impressed when she acknowledges, great job. I mean, of course, there's an imbalance here in terms of power, because obviously Candace is a known public speaker and debater, and Zena probably is a student or very young professional. Candace herself acknowledges, like, yeah, good job. You made me fall into my own trap. So that's a really very cool debate, precisely because it illustrates the importance of Socratic reasoning, and also how effective Socratic reasoning is. Like, you don't need to attack your interlocutor. You don't need to insult them. You can simply ask clarification questions, and the person would probably see the problems with their own argumentation. I hope you enjoyed this video on Socratic lines of questioning. If you did, or you found it useful, please give this video a like and subscribe to my channel. And also drop me a comment if you're interested in making new content on debates, or if you'd like me to analyze specific exchanges. Thank you, and see you soon.